Hi guys, so what we're going to do in this lesson is simulate some load. We're going to add load to the CPUs of our EC2 instances to see how auto-scaling responds. So remember, what it should do is we're going to set up a policy in our auto-scaling group, and what it's going to do is react to the metrics that get reported to CloudWatch. So we're going to say that when our CPU hits a certain threshold, then CloudWatch should notify auto-scaling, and auto-scaling should then launch an additional instance. So let's see how we go about doing this. What we're going to do is log into our EC2 instances, all three of them. So firstly, I'm just going to connect using the example connection string here. Copy that one. Let's head over. I've got 3 command prompts. Of course, they all need to be open where I've got my key pair file. So I'm going to hit enter, and I'm connected to one instance. Let's come back. I'm going to choose my next instance, click the connect button, copy the connection string here, paste that in, type yes again, and we're in the second instance, and then I'm just going to do that once more for the third instance here. Click on connect, grab this command, and then let's come back, paste that in, and we're now connected to all instances. So we've then got a couple of commands that we need to run on these instances to install a utility which we're then going to use to generate the load on our instances. But before we do that, we need to set up the policy on auto-scaling. So back in EC2, let's come down to auto-scaling groups, click on ASG1, and then we're going to go to automatic scaling. So we're going to click add policy, and we're going to create a target tracking scaling policy. And what this means is it's going to try and keep the average CPU utilization at a certain value. So let's leave that at 50 and click on create. And so that's really simple to create. It's going to execute the policy when, as required, to maintain the average CPU utilization at 50%. And it can add or remove capacity units as required. Now, I do want to adjust my minimums and maximums here. So let's keep our minimum at 2, but let's put our maximum at 6. And let's update. So now we've adjusted our auto-scaling group, and what we want to do now is generate some load on our instances to try and cause the auto-scaling group to add additional instances to keep that CPU average at about 50%. Now let's just see if anything's happening, because what I did do is I didn't change the minimum. So remember, the minimum was at 2, and because our CPUs aren't doing anything, it's actually going to terminate an instance. So let's head back up. So as we can see, it's terminated an additional instance because we now only have 2. So our baseline is starting at 2. That's the minimum. And that's because our CPUs aren't doing anything, so they're well below 50%. So 3 instances was unnecessary, and therefore it's saving us some money and actually shutting that instance down. So now let's go and generate the load. Now in the course download, which again is at the end of section 1, the last lesson, go and download the course download, unzip the directory somewhere on your computer, and inside code and files you'll find this install stress util ec2 file. Now in here there are 2 commands. So I'm going to take this first command, copy it to my clipboard, and on my command line I'm going to paste that in, go to my next command line, paste it in, and of course this is the one that's been terminated, so we can get rid of that. We don't have that instance anymore. And let's go to this one. So this will be our second instance. So remember, we have 2 running instances, and therefore we need to run this command on these 2. So then we install this utility called stress. So I'm going to copy that to my clipboard, come back, paste it in, and now we've actually installed this utility on these 2 instances. So now we want to go and use the stress utility to generate stress on our CPU. Okay, so let's run the following command. We're just going to run the stress utility -c for CPU 8, and that's going to add a number of processes to our CPU. And let's do the same on this other utility here. So those are just going to keep running now and generating load. Now, how long is it going to take to actually react? Well, it will take a bit of time. So let's head back over to EC2. So on EC2, what's happening is our instances are sending information to CloudWatch. But by default, they have something called basic monitoring enabled. That will send information to CloudWatch every 5 minutes. If you enable detailed monitoring, then you do have to pay, but you get it every 1 minute. So by default, it's going to take a few minutes to actually report the information about the metrics that are being recorded at the moment. So we have to wait a few minutes for that to be reported to CloudWatch and then for the auto scaling group to be notified that this is occurring. So just be patient and maybe grab a cup of coffee, and in a few minutes time, hopefully we'll see our CPU utilization has gone right up and our auto scaling group is going to launch a new instance. So I waited a few minutes and we can see now that we've had some change. So on the monitoring tab from one of my instances, we have CPU utilization here, and we can see that it jumped right up from, a super low value here, right up to almost 90%. And hopefully we'll see that on the other one as well. Let's check the other one. And sure enough, it's jumped up. Well, it's just under 50% at that point in time. It might be that it sent its information slightly earlier. So it's probably going to go up soon as well. So there's definitely quite a bit of activity happening there from the stress utility we're running. And sure enough, I've just refreshed the page and look, here we go. We've got 2 additional instances being launched. So our auto scaling group has reacted to that information. Let's head back down to auto scaling groups and have a look in the log. So I'm going to choose ASG1, click on activity, and here we go. We've actually got some information that's been logged here. So it tells us that a monitor alarm target tracking ASG1 alarm high was triggered in a state of alarm, and it triggered the policy to change the desired capacity from 2 to 4. So it worked out that to get back to about 50% CPU utilization across all instances, it needed to launch 2 additional instances. So that's how it works. We've seen it in action now. What we're going to do is I'm going to terminate this auto scaling group because we're going to create a new one in the next lesson in which we'll actually add a load balancer as well. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So in fact, we can go back down to auto scaling groups, click on our ASG, click on delete, and then we need to type delete in here and then choose delete. So that's going to delete our auto scaling group. And if we head back up to instances, we should then see that all our instances are being shut down. So that's it for this lesson. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next lesson.